So at this point, we're going to talk about the atmosphere and feel of the environment and things like that, and we'll talk through those things for a little while. But first, let's just talk about the atmosphere that we're trying to develop at each of our campuses. Of course, each campus is going to be different. There could be different settings, different places for Connecting Point ministry, but every place should be a warm, friendly place for people to go to. Doesn't matter where the location is, it should have that feeling. So as a volunteer, you create the atmosphere. The atmosphere is really created by the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, also faithfulness and self-control. And self-control is going to come up a lot through this. Another thing is your body language. If you're slouching or leaning, if you don't look very excited, if your arms are folded, kind of have a grouchy looking face, or you're not happy, whatever the case may be, you're setting a tone for people to approach you. So make sure that the tone you're setting in that atmosphere is friendly and warm and outgoing towards other people. Also make sure you have proper attire and hygiene. It seems like we shouldn't have to say it, but we want to make sure that we just make it clear. Dress nice. Look good. Look like you're professional and you're playing the part of trying to help others. Don't wear shorts or tattered T-shirts. Make sure you're clean that day. Take a shower. Okay. Don't wear any overbearing cologne or perfume, which is huge. My mom has allergies to perfume, so that would shut her off. And maybe you think yours smells great, but it might not smell that great to somebody else. Okay. So be aware of that. Also, no food or drinks. It's hard to be able to grab things you want to hand to other people. You got coffee in your hand and you're trying to shake hands. That can be hard. Or if you're eating Doritos, one, your breath's going to smell bad. Two, you're going to get cheese on somebody else, all right? So make sure you're not doing that. You're just giving your full attention to the people that are coming up to Connecting Point. So, when to arrive and how long to stay. Before the service, Connecting Point needs people there 20 minutes before it begins. You need to remain there as needed after the service begins. And probably most of the time, the majority of the staff can be dismissed once service begins. There won't be a ton of interaction at the beginning of service. But one person needs to stay at least until the sermon begins, so you're kind of there to help direct people, and you happen to meet somebody who's ready to talk about some stuff right away, or they're coming because they can't talk later after service. We need to have somebody there available to meet people. Now, at the end of service, at least one person should be out in Connection Point after the invitation song. So designate that person, talk with each other so you know who's going to be there and you know there's going to be somebody there. So somebody comes out there and be ready, because there's people making decisions to follow Christ. People wanting to change the way they're living, realizing they need to get connected, need to be a part of the body of Christ, and they need somebody to talk to. And you're going to be that person. So make sure you have somebody out there and you're ready. So as the service goes on and we're getting to offering and announcement time, everybody should be going out there and be ready before anybody's been dismissed or we've prayed out the service, so you're able to greet people and make sure you keep your eyes peeled out in the crowd. You're going to see people maybe with a VIP folder, or they're kind of looking around for a Connecting Point, not sure where it is. Identify those people so you can get them in, you get them connected. Go out if you think somebody is looking for you, just go meet them. And if they're not, that's great. At least you didn't let them pass by, okay? So if your campus has 2 services, you may need 50% of the staff before the first service. There usually isn't a lot of interaction before first service at any campus. It tends to be a lot of regular people at the first service. So make sure there's at least a 50% of your staff need there. Between services, especially, there's a lot of traffic. We need everybody there and everybody fully engaged into reaching out and connecting people to the crossing. Then obviously after second service, 100%. We need to greet all those people. That's when most visitors will come, is the later services. So make sure we're there, we're ready to go. And please, make sure your kids aren't there. I love my son, but he's always attached to my leg and needing things. And that's going to distract me from talking with people about Christ and meeting them where they're at. I love your kids, but make sure we're fully ready to engage the people that we're trying to get into a relationship with Christ, okay? So when you arrive, grab your lanyard. Everybody will have their made lanyard. It will be in a box, filed away. Just grab yours out, put it on a lanyard string, and wear it so people can identify who you are. They're going to forget your name. The name's going to be there, but you're easy to point out of who is serving that Sunday. Make sure the area is clean. If you see something, pick it up. If something needs to be wiped down, just wipe it down. Make sure your breath is clean. After my morning coffee, that tends to linger on for a while. Grab a mint. Don't grab gum because you don't want to be chewing and having a conversation, but grab a mint of some sort. Be ready for that so you can have a nice, pleasant conversation with somebody else. Well, at least on their half, it'll be pleasant, right? Make sure you have material stocked in your folders so you don't have to chase it down during your time with a person. Every connecting point has a black folders, and you can put all the information in there beforehand. You don't have to go off-site to try to find it, or wherever the case is. You're prepared just to hand it straight over to them, so it was a quick, easy interaction with them. Grab a campus news and read it. Know what's on there. So people come ask you about events or things going on. You can say, yes, I know about that. It's hard when you're looking for help and you go ask somebody, you say, I don't know. Nobody likes going to guest services at Kohl's or JCPenney and everybody's saying, well, I don't know. It's not helpful. We want to be as helpful as we can be. So know what's going on. Also, spend time in prayer that God will give you the life-changing opportunities and the wisdom to handle them. God's going to put something great in front of you. If you're not prayed up, if you're not in step with God and what to do, you might drop the ball. And we don't want to do that. We want to be ready and prepared and step with the Spirit so we're able to meet people where they're at their time of need.
Tony, I want to add something to that before we go on to that next section. I asked the question many times, how many needs do you think you walk by in a given day just out in the world? And that number is quite high. And then my next question in one of the other seminars I do is, so how many needs you think come through the doors at the crossing each Sunday? And I'm talking big, big needs. So that's what we need to pray about. Lord, there will be some people here that's a struggle for them to be here. They were drug here, whatever, and there'll be some hurting people. There'll be people that come to the realization that they need Jesus Christ and forgiveness. And we need just to pray for them that they would have the boldness to step out, and pray for ourselves that we would have eyes that look for those people. Eyes tell a lot about a person and what's going on. So we want to have eyes for their eyes and read their face. And if we see somebody hurting, somebody lost, somebody questioned, whatever it is, that we just need to be tuned in where we see them. And then finally pray that God would give us the wisdom, because we really don't know what will come to us on a given day. But we need to pray, God, give us those needs. Help them to have the boldness to step forward maybe and to interact with us. And God, help us to have the wisdom that we need so that we can really help them in their journey.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so where to stand? Every campus is going to be totally different. Kirksville is different from Quincy, which is different from 929 and Hannibal. They're all completely different. But we want to be aware of where we're standing. We don't want to be a firing line of people. We don't want 8 people in a row, like a wall being greeted of people, okay? We just want a couple people standing and ready to engage right away with the first person that comes by, a couple other people sitting in the background. And as you see other people meet somebody, you get up and take their place. So you're kind of rotating, making sure you're not a crazy wall of people, but you're ready and you're ready to meet people. And that's a part of the environment too. It's a little more inviting when it's just a couple people greeting you and engaging you fully, as opposed to 8 people trying to engage you.
Very good. Let's flip the page. As you can tell, this one's a little bit important. Don't cheat by going ahead yet. The number one hardest thing that you will face that you must guard against at all costs. Let's all turn the page together. Getting into conversations with your friends. Now, I know people that are in this ministry are people-oriented, they're outgoing. I'm talking about you. And so it's very natural for you to be in conversations and be all about people. And it's really a hard fight sometimes to stay out of conversations. Let me just read on through this, and then we'll wrap it up a little bit with some comments at the end. This is the biggest challenge that you will have. It is imperative that you do everything you can not to get into conversations with your friends. And I know that's hard for Connecting Point people because by nature we are very outgoing, people-oriented. We like talking with people. So our blessing becomes, our Achilles heel that is really hard for us to deal with sometimes. But we can do it. Let me ask you a few questions. How many people will walk by you ungreeted and unidentified during a 1 or 2 minute conversation? And a lot of times those conversations last a lot longer than that. You see the opportunities that we miss. And actually our time in Connecting Point is 15, 20 minutes. Really the first 10 minutes after the service are the real intense times when people are trying to do that. And then that thins out a little bit more. But just we have to be vigilant in making sure that we are focused and not in those conversations, especially during that time. Here's another thing. What will a guest think or do when he or she sees that I'm tied up with a conversation with my friend? They might be standing off 5 feet or 10 feet, and they're kind of waiting for this conversation to end, and we're completely oblivious. I, as a worker, am completely oblivious to the fact that they're standing there and they want to talk. And maybe they've had to really talk themselves into having this conversation, and we have just absolutely blown it. So, and what they're going to think is, well, they're busy, I'll get it, I'll come back next week, or forget this, whatever it is. It's just nothing good comes out of it. Did I mention that this is the biggest problem that we deal with, that you'll deal with? Here's what we can do to avoid it. Let the person know that I'm working right now and that we can talk later. If Tony comes up and he's wanting to have a conversation, I'll say, hey, Tony, I'm working right now in Connecting Point and I need to do this. How about in 10 minutes or so I'll come and find you, or you can come back and grab me and we can sit down and we can spend all afternoon talking if you want. And they won't be offended. They'll understand that. Also, what I see happening a lot is the same person will come to me week after week, hunt me out, and try to have a conversation with me. So if I have that conversation with them one time to say, hey, I'm working here and I can't talk and we'll hook up later, then most likely you won't have to say that week in and week out, because they'll go, okay, I get it. I can't go there and talk. I'll have to do it later. All right? Now, there's some people that might not get the hint, might not understand, and want to stay and have a conversation with you. Before they go, Tony might say, okay, yeah, and hey, before I go, let me ask you a real quick question, and get right back into a conversation, unaware, unintentional, that could go on and on. If that happens, what I encourage people to do, and it's very easy to do this, instead of being like this in a conversation, I'm going to stand like this more beside them in a conversation. Sometimes friends will move around in front of you, but not very often. And as I'm listening, it's like I am 20% here and I'm 80% out there. It's not the ideal, but still, when somebody comes by and he's talking, I'm still going to greet him. And I see somebody over there that's looking, I say, hey, Tone, I need to go talk to this person over here. And I excuse myself and go talk to him. And, that goes wherever it goes. So anyway, that's kind of how you avoid it, and what you can do if it happens to you. Let me read down through this. I just want you to get this, because I don't know if I've mentioned it yet in this session, but this is the number one thing, this biggest struggle that you will have. It is absolutely imperative that we focus on the task at hand, or we may as well pack our bags and go home. We do way more harm than we do good. I'm not sure what the strongest verbiage is that I need to use to convince everyone how important this is. Make up your own strong statement and multiply it by 10 trillion. Your job cannot be done in the least if you are disengaged from your purpose and engaged with a friend. It is like walking out off the playing field while the game is going on and talking with your friends in the stands. It just isn't going to work. Tony?
So if you're not talking to your friends, what should you be doing while you're waiting for people to come by? So make sure, we talked about having a good, happy atmosphere, but don't engage with the other workers. You guys are there volunteering together. You might have a conversation, but if the conversation is about, hey, what do you think about that guy? Hey, I know this guy needs to be talked to. Those are good conversations. But keep your eyes peeled on your task at hand that's in front of you, and that's the people. The people who are coming there are what matters the most. So make sure you're looking that way. Be focused on your task, and we've talked about this a few times already. But you got to be ready and be on task. It's an important calling that you're having right now, and God has put you there for a purpose. Be ready to do that. Look for other people who want to talk, and we're going to talk here in a minute about what those people look like. But be aware. Always be looking and even listening to what's happening around you. And again, don't talk with your friends, right? You just need to let them know. We'll talk a little bit later, but right now this is really important. And you're going to be setting a value to your friends when you do that. You're going to show them how important it is to connect with these people who are looking for Christ, looking to get connected to the crossing. Because they are the most important people that day, is the people that want to follow Christ, that want to be connected to the crossing. And we got to remember that as a value and set that as an example for our friends here at the crossing.
I want to add a little bit to this, Tony. As you know, this whole thing of talking with friends that we've been talking about, one thing that I see happening quite a bit is workers talking with each other, getting into conversations, because we're just social bugs and we like talking. That's why we're in that ministry. One of the reasons we're in that ministry. And sometimes I just see just workers talking with each other. So guard against that and just stay focused and let God use you. You'll just be amazed at what God does.